Hi, I'm Liam.
Hey, I'm Matt.
And I'm Jordan, and we're all Somerville Climate Ambassadors, and we're here to talk to you today about biking in the winter.
You may be wondering why I'm talking to you now in May when the weather's beautiful about winter biking. But it's so important to learn how to bike now and feel comfortable biking so that it's a breeze in the winter. This video is for two types of people. One are people who are just into biking or want to get into biking and want to know about biking in the winter. And two is for a category of avid bikers, but they put away their bike in the winter and they don't bike.
So there are 5 different things we want to make sure that you understand by the end of this video, and that would be gear that you can wear to be prepared and comfortable in the weather, accessories for your bike so that it also can be as prepped and ready to go. You're going to want to understand the weather and how to respect it, know the limits of what you can do and where you can get in it. The route planning so that you can get there as seamlessly and easy as possible. And lastly, just some general tips and tricks so that you can enjoy your biking experience.
So the first thing we're going to be going over is gear, and the biggest problem in the winter is moisture and wind chill, and Liam over here is going to be demonstrating what to wear. So right here we have a base layer jacket. This is mainly just for like protection against wind chill and just keep you a little bit warmer. So right here Liam has on a second layer, and this is good against like wind chill and moisture, and the benefit of it is that you can always unzip it in case it gets too hot, because after a little while it will get very hot. So in case it gets really cold, you could always put on some snow or rain pants just in case. So this here is a neck scarf. This is really important because it keeps your neck warm, and in case it gets really cold, you could always pull it up to your nose just in case for those really windy or chilly days. As you can see in the neck scarf, he is helmet come down, and if he's wearing a helmet, you can see you in a lot of situations. And finally, just remember to wear some gloves because biking is about 10 degrees cooler than walking.
All right, so now we're going to talk about all the gear you can put on your bike to make it easier on you and everybody else for winter biking, starting with lights and reflectors. So you're going to want to make sure you have a good, solid front light to help you see in case you're in areas that aren't well lit. And you're also going to want to have some reflectors, especially in the back, and potentially, if you can, having flashing ones, because that really helps with depth perception when it comes to motorists and other people judging kind of where you are in the road. So 2 things you can look out for that are super cheap, super easy for you to install yourself if your bike doesn't already have it for winter biking are spoke reflectors and back of the helmet light. So additionally, talking about the helmet, when you're purchasing your next one or considering getting into biking, always look out for the MIPS sticker. Make sure that it's NIP certified. This helps so much in terms of reducing risks of concussions. All right, the last couple things I want to talk about when it comes to your bike in the winter is that you actually have maybe some more options for your tire than you realize. This here is a commuter tire, so it's a pretty moderate width, but you can actually go even wider if you're really concerned about stability, and you can swap those into, based on the season, these winter tires that are a bit wider. And then if you want, you can even upgrade to studded tires as well for that like really increased traction for things like ice and sleet and things like that. You're always going to be wanting to check the groove depth of your tires, make sure that they still are going to be able to handle water. And then lastly, same thing with the brake pads. Just going to make sure that they're not worn down when you're going into the winter season. All right, so this last bit of gear, you might know that in Boston it can get pretty wet and muddy in the winter. So if you're ever seeing people with that line on their back, or they're seeing their backpack got all muddy, there's gear that can help a lot with that. You can see that this fender here, it goes all the way towards the back of the wheels, and that makes sure that nothing gets kicked up into you as you're biking. And then additionally, there are some very cheap backpack covers you can get to also make sure that they don't get soaked, if you're trying to commute and bring some stuff with you when you're biking. All right, now lastly, we have some gear for both you and your bike, because this is the bike mitten. And what it enables you to do is you can, whether you're wearing gloves or not, slide your hands in here and have full access to the gears and brake and everything else. But it's really a game changer when it comes to giving you that extra level of protection, both from wind, from water, and keeping your hands warm on the coldest of days.
So the next thing I want to talk about with winter biking is one, just knowing when it's safe to bike. There's lots of options for transit in Somerville. We've got biking, walking, the T, and cars. So when I'm making an informed decision about biking in the winter, I'm just saying, is this the best option for me? Usually something I'm considering is if it's just like a short trip in Somerville to my friend's house or to the grocery store, I can easily make that on my bike in the winter. But maybe if it's like a 45-minute bike ride, maybe I'll choose to take the T instead of riding 45 minutes in the cold. Just because like I'm encouraging you to bike in the winter doesn't mean it's always the right thing to do. So you also want to know your routes, so familiarity with the routes. When I'm biking around in the winter, usually I try and stick to places that I've already biked. The summertime is a great time to get to know the city, get to know which roads are good for biking and which are not. And then the last thing I want to talk about is hazards. Usually if it's hazardous driving, it's also going to be hazardous while biking. So things to be careful on are like hills, like Winter Hill, or there's a hill on Cedar Street that I always be careful on, but also like bridges and stuff like that. if I'm being careful intuitively in a car, I'm also going to be really careful when I'm biking in the winter.
So one thing to always keep in mind is to be well informed. The day before you ride, you should always check your weather app or turn on TV and check a local news station. Make sure you have decent conditions to ride, because the next day there could always be an ice patch or the roads might have not been plowed after a snowstorm. In addition, there could be strong gusts of wind or hail, and that might not make it favorable to ride. And if you slip and fall, you're not going to have a fun time.
All right, so to recap, we talked about the gear that you can wear to make sure that you are dry, warm, and just generally comfortable in all conditions in the winter. We've also talked about all the different accessories that you can equip to your bike to make sure that it has good traction, good visibility, and enhances your ability to stay dry.
And also, you want to make sure you're familiar with your route, plan it in advance, check the weather app on your phone, turn on a local news station, make sure the weather conditions are right so that you're having a good time out there.
And lastly, just remember, biking is fun. Biking can be safe with preparation. Somerville is one of the best cities to bike in the entire U.S., so get out there and bike.
Woo!